And Friends comes away with a rebound and a chance to take the lead. 33-32, Emerlehu going for the lead from the left wing. Emerlehu with the triple on the move, ready to run her from 8 feet. No, Jackson snares down the miss and then puts it home for the right side. Jackson in double figures for Friends. Trey Reed looking inside, off to Emerlehu, turns down to 3, kicks it left wing to Trey Reed. He drives in the lane, now to the rim, scoops it up and in, and he got fouled. 7. Tabor ahead with 1:40 to go in overtime. Here's Garner, strong move to the cup on Zoe Rust. She throws it up and makes it, and she gets fouled for one more. Friends ahead, Barberry goes up, and he flushes it down. Barberry taking flight and getting a body in the process. What's going on, everyone? Voice of the Friends Falcons here with our final edition of the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. Hard to believe that the season is over, but that is currently where we sit at this point. Here tonight, you're going to hear from the Friends women's basketball coach, Dean Jaderston. Of course, we're broadcasting from Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. Always a big fan of this place with the fact that it is March. I think we all know that the madness is just around the corner. This would be a great place to catch all those games. They have so many different TVs, and of course they have that fantastic food with that southern twist that everyone seems to enjoy and love. So come out to Walk-On Sports Bistreaux, located on Mays Road. Come try them and really see the difference in what they have out here at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. Well, the KCAC postseason tournament is over. The Friends women's basketball team trying to go back-to-back, making it to the KCAC championship game, but unfortunately for Friends, a tough loss to St. Mary in the semis to close out the season. Regardless, still a phenomenal year for Friends women's basketball, and of course we'll get the overall recap with head women's basketball coach Dean Jaderston. But Coach, I guess let's just kind of start from the KCAC postseason tournament, because I bet we're going to spend a lot of this time just kind of recapping the season, so no need to really dive into all those different games. You play Bethany for a third time, and with what Bethany does so well, you just worry what that might look like in the KCAC postseason tournament. A team that will get in your shorts, a team that will force turnovers, a team that will run up and down. Your team was ready to rock and roll pretty much from the get-go against the Bethany Swedes as you guys get the win inside the Garvey Center in that 3-6 matchup. Your reaction to what you saw in the KCAC quarterfinal game?
One of the things we worked on all year, and in the first part of the season, it was really our Achilles heel with turnovers. We would not value possessions as much as we should. And so starting, probably even 2 or 3 weeks of the last regular season, that was one of our keys to the game. It was, if we're going to win the playoffs, we've got to value possessions. We've got to take care of the ball. We've got to get offensive rebounds and be able to convert the majority of our offensive possessions. And Bethany is the team probably that gives us the most trouble with that. The way they press, the way they get after you individually on the perimeter. And frankly, early in the season as our guards were developing, that was something that was a problem for us. And we had, I think, our semester, up to that point, our semester low in turnovers was just 13. We handled the pressure. We were able to execute, get the looks we wanted. And that was probably one of the big takeaways is where we had grown as a team from the beginning to the end, is that pressure didn't faze us. And even if you look at the next game, we only had 12 turnovers at St. Mary. So even though we struggled in other aspects, that was a huge area of growth for us this year. And you can't win in the postseason. You can't win against the top teams if you're giving too many possessions away. So that was probably my biggest takeaway of the Bethany game. It was a great atmosphere in the Garvey Center, from football and baseball and softball and soccer and whoever else was there. A lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and we played like a team that was focused and planned on making it to the championship. So I was really pleased just with how we executed and how we performed.
And then in the semifinal game, going up to Leavenworth, we all know the challenge there with the St. Mary Spires, a team that has 5 different players that can dribble, drive, they can shoot, they can do lots of things correctly, especially on the offensive end, and maybe not identical to how things might have been in the regular season up in Leavenworth, but still St. Mary had a fast start, and meanwhile, that wasn't the case for you guys. At that point, you're trying to fight your way back, but St. Mary just pretty darn impressive when it comes to getting leads, starting off fast, and then kind of keeping teams at bay. What'd you see in that loss in the semis?
If you look at our Tabor losses, our 2 losses to St. Mary, our 4 conference losses or tournament losses, there's one factor that is consistent in all of them, and that's a first or second quarter barrage of 3-pointers where we just break down defensively. We thought we'd corrected that. We'd worked on it. One of the things that we do is we have to trust our hoops, Taylor and Cassie. When people get around the basket, they don't like to challenge them a whole lot. And so when people get deep, we have to spread. We have to find shooters. And the games that we lost, you can go back to tape and you can freeze frame it, and there's 4 perimeter defenders all looking at the ball with shooters open on the perimeter. And we worked on that. What happens, though, is the bigger the game, the higher the pressure, the more players and coaches will revert back to their basic habits. And in that moment, we gave up 6 threes in the first quarter, and I think 4 of them were in a row. So it's that's something we have to get better at. And I think it's we were talking as a coaching staff after, and you look back at the beginning of the season, we had all these new guards who came from various different places, and they had to play new roles, and they had to be in new situations, and they learned, and they grew tremendously. And then, okay, so you've done this, now you got to learn to do that in the playoffs, and not just do that at home in the playoffs, but now how do you have to execute on the road? And that's the next step for us as a program, is how do we play in those big games? If I look back at, the Columbia game, the Ozarks game, teams that are ranked or getting votes, we did not perform at the level we wanted to, and I just think that's where this team has to grow. So it was a good, humbling learning experience for us. We didn't give up. We played. I mentioned we only had 13 turnovers in the Bethany game. We only had 12 against St. Mary. So it wasn't that we were turning the ball over. We just did not guard the way we'd been guarding most of the season, and against St. Mary, that kills you. They can put the ball in the basket. So hats off to them. They hit every shot that we left open, and we left too many open in that first quarter and had to play uphill after that.
Well, Ray Gardner starts the game by missing, I think, her first 7, right? So then she was able to go the rest of the way. Maybe that was an incorrect box score, what I saw on the fly, live scoring-wise, but maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe it's Lauren MacGyver who I was thinking of that missed some shots. I can't remember in that game against St. Mary. But I was following along, and I thought that maybe there's a slow start. Maybe it was just an error on NAI Presto or whatever it might be. I think we all know that those happen from time to time. But regardless, I know Ray was able to battle. She ended up with a big game with 17 points and 5 rebounds. And again, it was just an incorrect thing. But regardless, Ray was able to lead the way scoring-wise for you in that game against St. Mary.
Yeah, actually, Ray kept us in it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back and replay. I think what Presto probably had was our bigs early on went like 1 for 5 or 1 for 6 to start the game. Cassie hit the first jumper, and part of what they did is they left our bigs open in the mid-range and stayed tight on our shooters and let our bigs go one-on-one inside. And if we aren't hitting any threes, it's going to be tough to match 2s with 3s. Or 3s with 2s. So, but I think Ray went 1 for 2 from 3 and got to the rim and just played with a lot of energy, competed. In some ways, I thought she and Taylor both really responded to the pressure and raised their level of intensity and focus. And that's what we have to learn to do across the board, is how now do you take the situation and then elevate your play, not not make you nervous, not paralyze you a little bit. That's one of the things. If I look at that game, we moved very poorly compared to what we've been doing. Ball would go into Taylor, and we have these automatic cuts that we want people to do to create space and create openings, and they rarely happened. When Ray got the ball and would attack, we would watch. Our rebounding went down a little bit. And like I said, the pressure of the moment, that's what it does. You watch tournaments all the time, and you see kids. Why would they do that? Well, pressure does that to people. And so this off season, it's developing some really good habits and things that you don't have to think about doing in a game, because if you have to think about it, you're going to do it slow. It's got to become the habit that you normally do. And so it opened up our eyes to some things. Okay, this is where we get better at now, and we'll take the next step. But having Ray back, having Taylor back, having the whole crew back except for Cassie, it's going to be an important spring for us, an important off season, but excited for what the future holds for Falcon basketball.
No doubt. Dean Jaderson, head women's basketball coach at Friends University, here on the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. The Falcons end up 23-7 this year, 19-3 in the KCAC, falling a step shy of making it back to Hartman Arena for the second consecutive year, but a lot to like going forward, as Coach Jaderson brought up. You get two players on the KCAC first team. You get Ray Gardner on there, second in the conference in scoring, pretty good at swiping the ball as well. And, of course, you have Taylor Jackson, who's just a walking double-double. So they get two of the top five represented with a Friends University red. That's got to be a really thrilling thing for you to see.
Yeah, it's also fun. They both came in as freshmen, so they are growing. They're developing within the program. They're taking those next steps. They're getting stronger. Ray just creates havoc. She creates havoc on the board. She was second in the conference in steals. She has such good instincts as to where the ball is going to be and getting there. She finishes so well and is so fast and strong in transition. It's been interesting this year. Taylor and Ray are so strong. If they were thinner, they probably would have shot another 50 free throws each. But a lot of times they just finish through contact. I think it catches people by surprise. It catches officials by surprise that they can still absorb that contact and finish. And we love having strong kids, so that's a good thing for us. Taylor continues to improve her offensive game. I thought probably the last third of the season she really found her rhythm as an offensive player and began to get the angles she needed down low and not letting people push her out of her space, but actually claiming her space and then going up and finishing. I think her shooting percentage climbed about 8 points over the second semester. So I loved watching her get that rhythm in. Her free throw shooting got better from the first part of the season. And it's funny. Somebody asked me, well, she didn't block as many shots as she did last year. And I'm like, people don't shoot against her like they used to. They know that if they get in the lane, it's probably getting swatted. You look back at that St. Mary game at home, and there was a play. There's a breakaway layup that St. Mary has that Taylor tracks down and maybe changes the whole momentum of the last 2 minutes of the game. And she came out of nowhere to get that block. So she's amazing. Excited to have her for one more year and see what that holds. But, yeah, they were well-deserving. I think Taylor's by far the best post in the conference. I think Ray is one of, in my mind, three players who are just dynamic, and there's nobody like them in the conference. And so I was pleased they both got first team.
Yeah, and then you got Lauren McIver, who winds up being the KCAC newcomer of the year, ends up being a KCAC third-teamer. That's the one thing I was talking to another coach. I'm like, hey, I think it's got to be Lauren, right? And they're like, no question, it's got to be Lauren, right? And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not the one who's in the meetings, voting. I don't get a media vote, okay? So I'm not part of the meetings, but I'm glad that the rest of the conference also saw the impact that Lauren has made in season number one.
Well, and if, again, you go back to the first month of the season, I don't think anybody would have predicted that.
Yeah.
Learning to play the point, having to become a distributor as well as a scorer, coming off of an injury where she sat the whole second semester last year. Is her ankle going to hold up? How's that going to be? Who are these new teammates she's playing with? And watched her first couple games and just trying to find her footing, and then all of a sudden she starts really just turning into this really, really good point guard who can score, who can make decisions. They're joking she was 11 assists shy of the Friends career regular season assist mark, but people forget that it wasn't 2 years ago. It was a 28 game or a 30 game season, not a 28 game season. So if she had 2 more games, I think she probably would have got it. And you go back a few more years before that, we were allowed to play 32 games. So for her to get within 11 in a shortened season, not shortened, but compared to what it used to be, in her first year playing point guard, that's pretty amazing. It's going to be interesting next year. We've got some other pieces that we've recruited. Do we keep her at the point, or do we move her into maybe a more of a natural 2 spot where we can get her in attack mode a little bit more? She actually shot the 3, I think 32% this year, so ended up being one of our better 3-point shooters, which was something we didn't expect with her coming in. So I think we can use her offensive skills, but to have somebody who's so multidimensional, they can guard, they can score, they can pass. I think she's going to be a lot of fun to watch the next couple of years.
Well, you brought up how this spring and off season should be big based on what you have coming back. Well, Corey Babcock and Trinity Johnson both should be coming back. And Trinity, we all know she got banged up toward the tail end of the season, so an off season maybe a little bit of rehab there for her. And I know you said too, when she gets a little bit more in shape, she's really going to change the game next year for your bunch.
At one of the tough things, we had a stretch. We were playing really well, I thought. We'd found our rotations. We had some matchups we were working through. We really liked that. We beat Bethany at home, and she got injured in the last 2 minutes of that game, I think it was.
Yeah.
And she wasn't the same the rest of the season. You're trying to get an injured player back, trying to get them into rhythm, and sometimes either they're shy or they try and do too much. It's just hard to get back in rhythm, and then our rotations change. And we were playing Jaden and Ashlyn on the sides of the Warrior positions in our zone, and we just give up so much size when we do that. Our rotations changed at that point, and candidly, I don't think we ever quite got back the rhythm we had before she went down. So it's going to be an important spring. Get her healthy. She came in last year because of the cracked disc in her back. She had a redshirt last year. I think it took her most of first semester to just really believe, okay, I'm healthy. I'm not going to hurt it again. If you watched her probably January to early February, we just saw her game grow. And like I said, we were playing really well during that stretch. So now we got to get her in the off season strengthened up. The knee's fine, so it's just a matter of getting back in rhythm and figuring out where all the pieces fit together next year. But it should be a lot of fun to have those shooters back.
Well, the other thing is, too, you'll have freshmen become sophomores, sophomores become juniors. That's got to be the best part, too, as a coach, seeing another year. Well, I mean, I guess you could probably argue freshmen are already probably sophomores at this stage in the game, but they get a chance to make an even bigger leap in the offseason.
Yeah, we have a great JV group, and they've been working hard, and some of them can shoot the ball pretty well. We'll bring in. We had some kids who play JV, but are also part of our varsity rotation that we think have a lot of promise for the future. So it's developing those. Like I said, this summer is going to be a really big part. And then in college basketball world, in today's world, transfers and impact freshmen are the norm. So there's going to be some kids coming in. We've got to get more size on the wing. We've got to get who's going to be our post coming behind Taylor when she graduates in a year. That's a huge, huge recruiting priority for us. But there'll be some newcomers who we don't have to plug in 6 newcomers now. It's just plugging in 1 or 2 in key spots. And we've got one, Kyler Frenchers is transferred in at semester, and so she's been practicing with us. So it's not going to be a brand new person coming in the fall. There's a lot of fun pieces to think about in the future.
For sure. And you're just getting warmed up on the recruiting trail, right? I mean, I feel like you're doing it all year, but it feels like now that the season's over, once you get to this point, you're just getting started. And you already have some of the groundwork already laid down at this point, which is good.
It is. We've got the majority of our kids coming back, so the numbers of recruits this year that we're going to be looking at are less than we typically do. But yeah, this week it's Oklahoma State tournament, Kansas State tournament, Arkansas State tournament. Region 6 starts up this weekend. Region 2 is next week. The Division 2 JUCOs have already started their playoffs, and so there's between going to games and watching online and trying to catch 3 games at once. There's a lot happening right now when we're also just trying to get caught up after a long season. So, yeah, we'll be out on the road a lot, having a lot of fun, but also decompressing a little bit and trying to put in perspective what this season was. It's you never take wins for granted. It's college basketball. Everybody's on scholarship. Everybody's working to get better. We were picked. I didn't even go back and look back. I think it's like 6th or something in the conference starting out the season, middle of the pack, and to see our team come together and put together a 12-game winning streak, to have that big win at St. Mary at home and compete the way we did, it was really fun. And knowing that all that groundwork now sets the stage for hopefully an even better team next year, because they're all used to playing together. Pretty fun to think about.
And another potential trip overseas to coach?
I am actually heading out. It's actually going to be a busy travel year. I'm going to Spain again, taking another high school team. It's actually fun. On our team, 2 of the kids are actually either committed to us or already here.
Wow.
So I get to coach some of our kids there and spend some extra time with them. And then on a personal note, my youngest son is having a baby, he and his wife, in Taiwan. So in May, Julie and I are heading to Taiwan to be grandparents the 8th time. So we'll have some fun there with the new baby. And so a lot of travel this time. I've connected with a couple schools over there, so I'm hopefully going to get a little basketball in at the same time. But, yeah, it should be a fun off season and a productive one. And we'll blink and we'll be back here doing this thing next year.
You're at number 8. You're getting close to my parents. They're number 13 with my family, with my daughter. So you're getting closer and closer. You're getting closer and closer to matching the 13 there. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time here throughout this entire year. It's been a lot of fun covering this group. And the sky's the limit, I feel like, for next year. And looking at the rest of the conference, too, of some pieces that are returning, some pieces that aren't returning, there's no reason to why Friends University shouldn't be competing for a women's basketball championship for next year. So looking forward to it. Thank you so much for your time, as always, and enjoy that extremely busy offseason. Looking forward to 24-25.
Thank you very much, Pat.
Dean Jaderston, head women's basketball coach at Friends University, here on the final Friends basketball show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. A remarkable season for Friends women's basketball, falling just shy of making it back to Hartman Arena for the KCAC Women's Basketball Championship game. 3 individuals, though, being honored for all KCAC honors. You have Taylor Jackson and Ray Garner both being on the first team. Laura McIver in her first season being named the conference's newcomer of the year, as well as a third-teamer. And just a couple of losses in the KCAC. Certainly a very phenomenal season for the Friends women's basketball team, and there's no doubt that next year could be a lot of fun. Cassie Kinderberg, I don't know if she watched these things or not, but it's been a true pleasure getting a chance to cover her throughout these years. Remember her as a freshman, and now she's on her way out the door, and there's no doubt she's going to be a big-time impact in this community. Looking forward to seeing what happens with her going forward. And, of course, looking forward to be back here at Walk On Sports Bistreaux. At least I hope so. It's been fun being out here every single week. Sometimes we've had some things pop up to where we had to switch to Zoom, but on those days when I had to switch to Zoom, I wish we were out here back in this building, because it's just way better to be out here at Walk On Sports Bistreaux. They provide fantastic food. They have so many TVs in this place. They have great patio areas as well. Come check out Walk On Sports Bistreaux, located on Mace Road. We appreciate all the support from Walk On Sports Bistreaux all throughout this entire year. On behalf of Dean Jaderson, I'm Pat Stroppin saying so long from Walk On Sports Bistreaux. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM.